Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. I'm excited to be joined by Coach Steve Bellis. Coach, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. I much appreciate it.
Yeah, you are at Concordia University St. Paul up in Minnesota, an NCAA Division II program, if I'm not mistaken.
That's us. We
And
are we're right in the Twin Cities. We're a small-ish private school that compete at the NCAA Division II level.
awesome. Well, let's talk about. We'll start by talking about your recruiting. So, when do you usually start looking at players and start hearing from players that are interested in your program? What year in high school do you guys focus to that start process?
Yeah, I think historically, we would start looking at sophomores and juniors. However, over the last 5-6 years, the recruiting process seems to be shifting in a few different directions. So we're now getting emails from freshmen, which is a little early for me personally. But then we're also, I think COVID has obviously made a big dent in this, but we're also still getting emails from seniors who haven't quite figured out what they want to do or what the process should look like. But in general, our recruiting focus is on sophomores and juniors in high school.
How many inbound contacts would you say you get in a normal week?
Obviously, it varies on
Sure.
the time of year. Anywhere from 10 to 70.
Wow. Okay. And what are some of the things you'd like to see in that first communication from a prospect?
I like the personal side of things. So if I get an email from a potential player that has some interest in the school, so they know a little bit about the school, so they put that in the email. They know a little bit about our location, and you can tell that they know what level we play at. Those things will probably lead me to actually read it. I'm not a big lover in the generic coach emails. If they don't put my name in there, that usually is a red flag that, hey, this is a mass email and they really don't care about our school. And then the other ones that I generally don't open are the ones that come from recruiting companies that are just mass emails.
Right.
So the ones that'll catch our attention are ones that are specific to our program, our school. And then anything that's got a little bit that shows that the kid's got a little bit of character. They know a little bit about the school and a little bit about the program, but then they tell us something interesting about themselves. Whether that be about soccer or not, sometimes it doesn't matter. Somebody needs to perk my interest some days.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's all right. You got a lot to sift through. That makes sense. Well, I guess before I ask this, what about communications from club coaches? Is that something that you like to see? Do you get a lot of contacts from club coaches? Do you reach out to club coaches?
Yeah. I think they've been the lifeblood of the recruiting process for a long time. And it's good to form a good relationship with club coaches. We work with, clubs from all over the Midwest and also out on the West Coast as well. So once I get that relationship going and I understand that they know exactly what we're looking for and they know what soccer should look like, that's really helpful. We work with a couple in town that'll send me notes about players or events that are coming up. And that's really a good way for us to kind of start the process and go see the player and get things rolling on that side of things.
Okay. Well, when you are out and about recruiting, what are some of the key tournaments that you attend? Do you ever check out high school games? Like what do you do when you are out and about?
And I think this has changed a little bit as the soccer horizon has changed. I think there was like 5 or 6 key tournaments that we would go to 10 years ago, particularly in the Midwest. But I think with the introduction of GA, ECNL, all the other different levels, I think it's important for us to kind of expand our horizon and get out and see a few of these different levels for sure. High school soccer's in the fall in Minnesota, so that makes it extremely difficult, as it's the same time as our college season, to get out and watch high school games. So that's probably on the lower end of our spectrum, is going out and watching high school stuff, and it's club soccer that's still the lifeblood for us. So I'm in Phoenix this weekend for the President's Day event. I've been to Silver Lakes this year. We've been to Disney. We've seen ECNL games. We've seen GA games. I don't, you know, we're at that point now where our pool of players is actually quite good in terms of the amount of recruits that we're talking to, that we probably wouldn't need a new event, but we're always open to a new event as long as it's got the quality that we need, and obviously sometimes the quantity too.
Sure. What about, how do camps fit into your recruiting? Do you host ID camps? Do you and your staff like to go coach at other camps and to look at players? How does that work for you guys?
Yeah, a little bit of both of those. So we'll run 2 ID camps. We do a winter one in December, and then we do a summer one in July. We invite our recruits to that. Obviously, we get anywhere between 50 and 60 players. And those, when they're on our campus, I think it's beneficial 2 ways. Obviously, the players get to see the school, they can tour campus, they can meet admissions. We do a little college prep talk as well. So that's good for them to see us. But the better part is that we get to coach them. We get to kind of see what they're like as a player, as a person. We get a better feel for personalities. It's a really good, efficient way of recruiting. Both sides of the coin, you know, for the players and also for the staff. The one thing that we do with our ID camps is we invite other colleges, so other D2s, other D3s, will come and they'll observe our camp. And after the camp, the players have an opportunity to chat with other schools as well, which I think is good. I think, you know, ultimately, if we have 50 kids on a camp, we're not going to take many of those. So I want to make sure that they get a good experience and also an opportunity to kind of showcase their abilities for other schools as well. So
that's great.
Camps have been productive for us over the last few years.
Awesome. So, you know, you mentioned getting to see players, getting to know them a little bit. So what are those key characteristics that you're looking for in a player, both on and off the field, that kind of, you know, your hierarchy? I need to make sure I check these boxes.
I think work rate is huge. Kid who wants to be there, who wants to work hard, who wants to put in the effort, who has the grit and determination to do some of the mundane stuff that you do in practice sometimes. I think that's good. That ticks a box straight away for me. A kid's that's coachable. So when they're on camp, if we give them some coaching points, if they can take that on board and actually put it into practice quickly, there's another box that's checked. Those are things for sure that would go a long way. Then obviously we're looking for a good athletic ability, and then ultimately a good game understanding and technical ability as well. So those things will all come out on a 2 to 3 hour camp. You know, you'll be able to figure that out pretty quickly. So we want athletic players, but also we need technical players that will understand how we play our game at Concordia.
Okay. Do you have a set number of players you try to bring in every year? Or does it just kind of vary year to year?
I think COVID's kind of made a big shift in that. I think, you know, again, historically, we bring in 6 to 10 players every year, depending upon our senior rotation, obviously. But with the COVID year, that's made it a little bit more difficult to predict. A lot of our seniors have taken the extended year that they can take. Some of them haven't, but a lot of them did. So obviously our class sizes have been a little bit smaller in the last couple of years, and I don't think that'll change too quickly. Maybe another 2 cycles before we get back to the norm of all right, we're going to bring in 6 to 10 players every year.
Yeah. So you guys are Division II, so you have some athletic money to give out. What is the overall kind of scholarship picture at your school, both on the athletic side as well as the academic scholarship side? What do most players come in, looking at?
If I was a recruit, I would focus on the academic side of things, because ultimately that's where you're going to get the larger piece of the scholarship. Just rough numbers, Concordia is about 33,000, including room and board. So we're on the lower end for a private school in terms of tuition and costs. Academic scholarships range from 2,000 to 11,000. So obviously I want smart soccer players that are going to get the 11,000 chunk, which obviously helps pay for a private school. And then the soccer side of thing really varies upon ability. We don't, there isn't a set number.
Right.
It'll vary between year to year ability, and then sometimes on what we need. If we need an attack-minded centre back, we may have to spend a little bit more money to get to that point. So it really does vary. I don't want to put a figure on it.
Oh yeah, no. I always like to ask that to give people an idea of what they need to be looking at and what a particular school might be doing. So appreciate that. So I noticed a couple international players on your roster this season. How heavy is your kind of international recruiting for your squad?
Not too heavy. It's not our focus. It's I like international students. I think they'll bring a flavor and a game understanding that sometimes you don't get in an American high schooler. But it's a longer process for us. It's a more challenging process because sometimes physically you can't see them play at all. So you're relying on video and coaches' references and so on. So we haven't really relied on that. We've got a handful of kids that that have ended up on our doorstep, international students, but it hasn't been a primary focus for us, and it probably will never be.
So last question on the recruiting side then, what about transfers, junior college players, and walk-ons, kind of that the other mix?
We're open to those. I think I don't think they're a guaranteed. So I don't think when we're looking for 6 kids that we go into it and say, all right, 2 will be transfers, 2 will be walk-ons. I think it's more of a natural attrition. We're in the Twin Cities where there's a lot of soccer played. So we'll get transfers just because a lot of kids will come back to the Twin Cities after a year or 2 away at a Division I school generally, and they'll transfer to us because they want to be closer to home. That's kind of how things have gone historically. Walk-ons, we are open to walk-ons. However, that's generally that's a tough way to find yourself on a college soccer team, by knocking on the coach's door and saying, hey, I want to try out. We usually recruit every player that comes onto the team. So walk-ons are not many, to be honest. So
Sure.
Over my 11 years here, maybe we've had 3 walk-ons that have been successful.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about the school a little bit. What, we can click around the website and learn a bunch of things. So you've been there a number of years. Give me some of the things that are awesome about your school that I'm not going to find on the website. But give me some super secret nuggets that only you're going to know here.
The location itself just speaks volumes for an outstanding location in terms of what's going on in our locale. We are a 5-minute walk to Minnesota United Stadium, so we have an MLS professional team on our doorstep. A lot of the players go to the games. We've done some stuff with those guys where we've helped out at games. We take our players to the games. I've got season tickets. It's right on the doorstep. A little bit further, that direction takes you to downtown Minneapolis. We've got all the sports teams here in the Twin Cities. It's just the location here for us is good. You can walk to the shops and the stores, but you're also on a campus that feels like it's a campus feel. It's quite pretty. You know, even in the winter, it's quite pretty. You know, the winters can be harsh here in Minnesota. But our school does a really nice job of upkeep and making sure that you feel like you're in a campus, but within 5 minutes, you can be downtown Minneapolis, downtown St. Paul, the airport's in, you know, spitting distance, the Mall of America, or whatever it may be. The location for us is a huge selling point. I mean, the other nuggets of beauty, our facilities are outstanding. As we just talked about, you know, it snows here, so our field is a turf field, but for 3 months of the year, it's covered with an inflatable heated dome, which may be a foreign concept to lots of states in America, but it's a really good way to train and play on the same field that you'll play on in the fall. We have a brand new weight room that's tailored just for athletes. It's got a really cool little turf area where we play futsal as well. Brand new running track. The facilities here, the sports facilities here are fantastic. Obviously, those are the kind of things that you think about as you're going through the recruiting process. Is location and facilities would be high on my map. And then the other glowing piece would be academics. Concordia has multiple majors, multiple minors that are all pretty well recognized regionally and nationally. So some excellent programs that players can go into and graduate from on time.
No, that's great. You know, you mentioned the majors and the academic piece. So how do your student athletes balance the academic side and the sports side?
Honestly, some of that is just based on the kind of recruit that we go after. We want kids that are academic, so we look at players' GPAs, we look at their ACT scores or SAT scores. We're probably not going to recruit kids that are going to struggle at it in our environment, academic environment, because ultimately that's just going to be it's going to be a challenge. So we want kids with good GPAs. We do study tables in their first and second year. So 2 nights a week, our students will be with a tutor in a classroom, just making sure that the transition from high school to college is going well, and obviously that they're doing well academically. So our tutor will help. We've got small class sizes here, so professors will know your name, they'll know you're a soccer player. If you're not doing well, pick up the phone and we kind of fix our problems. So the balance just seems to come pretty naturally after a semester or two. I think they do a decent job. Our team GPA is outstanding. We have a 3.78 team GPA right now. We're quite proud of that. You know, we flaunt that against the other teams, and that's something that we really promote. I'd also like to think that our players get a social life as well. I think when you live in the Twin Cities and you've got so many outside opportunities to have fun and be a student, it's a shame to neglect that. So the balance is academics, athletics, and then a social life. And we want to make sure that we give our students a well-rounded experience.
Well, so in that experience, what would a typical, you know, non-game day look like for a player during the season in terms of what they're doing from wake up to going to bed?
Yeah, I think in the fall season, obviously that's our busiest time in terms of games, practices, training, lifting. And on an average day, you know, a student will go in, they'll go see the trainer, they'll go to lift. Now, lifting in the fall is very much speed and agility work, some ACL prevention stuff, some core stuff. So we're not on the big weights and stuff in the fall season. So they'll lift once or twice a week, and then obviously we'll practice. We practice two 2 to 2.5 hours, depending on where we're at in the week, where we're at in the season. And then a couple of nights a week, we'll do film and video and individual meetings. So the fall, you're busy with soccer. So that's when it's really important to make sure you get the balance right with your academics as well. So we make sure we have good contact with all the professors. They know what our schedule looks like. They know what's expected from the players soccer-wise, so that we can balance that with the professors to make sure that it's not overwhelming.
Yeah, no, that
Once
makes
we're done
sense.
with the fall, things kind of taper off a little bit. And that's where we spend a little bit more time in the weight room. So we go to a winter program, or a winter season, we call it, where the balance becomes half the time you're lifting, half the time you're doing soccer. It ends up being about 8 hours a week. So it's a little bit lighter than the fall. And again, we want to make sure that our focus on academics is still prevalent. And then we have a spring season. As a Division 2 program, you get 5 dates where you can play Division 1 teams, Division 2 teams, club teams. So this spring we've got a couple of D1 games, a couple of D2 games, and a couple of club games as well. So, and then that's kind of, the end of the season in the spring is late April. The snow's gone in Minnesota, hopefully by then. And we send them home for the summer, or we send them somewhere where they can do the workouts that we give them for the summer as well.
Okay. Well, you talked about non-game situation, non-game days, and all those kind of stuff. In terms of game days, and your conference has a pretty big geographic swath. So what's a typical travel time? What's your travel look like during the season?
Yeah, I think geographically, and again for recruits, it's important to think about this. Geographically, we're not in a bad situation. Most of our trips are 2 to 3 hours, with the exception of, a couple. We go to North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Nebraska. Those trips are a little bit longer. Our schedule rotates every other year, so we don't always travel. The year after they'll come to us. If we travel, we'll travel after class on a Thursday. Again, we're pretty cognizant that we don't miss class, and we work with professors so they know that we'll travel after class on a Thursday. We'll get to our venue on Thursday night. We'll train Friday morning. We'll play Friday afternoon or Friday evening, and we jump on the bus and we drive to the next school, and then we play on a Sunday afternoon, and we're back Sunday night. So we have travel partners in our league, so that maintains that every weekend you'll get 2 games. So we're not driving to North Dakota for 1 game, we'll get 2 games.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more specifically about the team and playing and stuff. So, how big a roster do you usually carry? Are freshmen challenging for playing time when they first come in? Do you have a reserve team or anything like that?
So our current roster is about 32. That includes 3 keepers. So enough field players where we can obviously play 11v11 every day. And it's varied a little bit over the years, but not too much. So anywhere from 28 to about 32 is our roster. I've found that, obviously you're going to pick up 1 or 2 injuries. Hopefully, fingers crossed, those injuries are not lengthy injuries, but there will be moments where you've got players sitting. And we train 11v11 most days. We'll have games where so you need about that number. It seems to work. In regards playing as a freshman, we freshmen play here. I play my best 11. It doesn't really matter what class you're in, to be honest. However, realistically, the freshmen need to put in an awful lot of work to be able to compete that summer before they go to college. It's really key that they're in the weight room, that they're doing all the physical side of things, and then obviously maintaining a high level of soccer where they're playing at the highest level possible. Because, you know, if you think about it, they're coming in as a 17 or an 18-year-old, but we're asking them to compete with 21, 22-year-olds that have been in the weight room for the last 4 years and are ridiculously competitive, and they don't want to give up their spot to a 17-year-old. So if you come in and if you're good enough, you'll play. However, you've got to be prepared to put the work in to get to that point.
For sure. What about your soccer staff? How many other staff do you have? What role does each person play?
So currently we have a grad assistant. So she's in the office with us 3 days a week. She's doing a master's degree. She's coaching on the field with us, out recruiting. She's busy. So she and I work kind of hand in hand on a day-to-day basis and do most of the, you know, the daily activities that are required to make the program tick. And then we have a goalie coach who's part-time. So he'll come in 3 days a week. And then we have a part-time assistant who'll be at every training session. He'll help recruit, but it's very much a part-time position. So there's 2 full-timers, 2 part-timers, and then we have a strength and conditioning coach who's hired by the school. So he'll work with our program and also one other program. And then we have a trainer. We're quite lucky here. Our trainer works with soccer specifically. So any injuries or sickness or COVID tests or whatever it may be, you always see the same trainer. So that's nice. So that's our staff currently. My hope is that we had a full-time assistant, and we're kind of working through that process right now. So hopefully sometime in the fall, we'll add one other full-time member, which would make my job a little easier.
All right. Well, let's talk about your job specifically. How would you describe your style of coaching and your team style of play?
I get this question a lot, and I think it really varies a little bit depending upon the team that we've got, the team that we're playing against, and then also what kind of rhythm we're in and what kind of state are we in. Are we winning games? Are we competitive? So I think that my style wasn't changed dramatically, but there will be moments when you see a different Steve. I think that it's important to enjoy soccer. I think it's important to have fun. I think it's important to be competitive, but I also think it's important to develop and continually get better. So I think all those things, you know, it's a fine line between enjoyment, having fun, but also buckling down and getting better and developing. So we try and hit that fine line. So in every practice, every opportunity, we'll try to give you little hints of all that, a little bit of enjoyment, a little bit of fun, a little bit of development, but continually becoming a better player and a better student athlete.
Okay.
Coaching style wise, I would think that we do most of our work in practice, and that come game day, my role is a little bit limited in that we'll give you some instruction, try and give you as much encouragement as possible, we'll point you in the right direction. But none of us are cheerleaders. That's not our staff. We've got good senior leadership. We've got great captains. We've got good leaders on the field. They pick up the role of coach during the game, which is nice. I feel that gives them a really good, strong responsibility, a little bit of ownership of the team. So from a coaching standpoint, I think most of my work's done in practice. It's done in the office with the recruits. And come game day, I try and sit back and relax and have a coffee and a Twix and see what happens.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, you know, we've talked about a lot of different things here, and so this will just be my last question for you: is what haven't we talked about? What is it that you would like anybody to know about your school, your program, or anything else that we haven't covered?
I think from a recruiting standpoint, we've got some good characters on staff. I think the recruits need to know whether they would be a good fit with that coach or not. And I think they can only figure that out by prolonged discussion and a campus visit and an opportunity to ask players specific questions. So when you do a tour with a player, you've got an hour there to kind of really, all right, what's Steve like? What's Sid like? What's the program really like? What's it like being a player deal, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
And I think once you get those answers, that's half the battle done. I think you want to enjoy college soccer, and you want to put yourself in a position where, you know, you think you can compete, but you want to make sure that you're in a good situation from the get-go. And recruits sometimes forget about that, and, you know, focus on the level or the school or whatever it may be. But there's a lot goes into it, and it's kind of a long process. But if you do it properly, you'll end up at the right spot.
For sure. For sure. Well, Coach, I appreciate the time, and wish you the best of luck in the fall season. And hopefully we'll get a chance to check back in with you, see how you do. And hopefully you got a couple new recruits who've seen this video as well.
Hope so. Thanks, Matt.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Thanks,
Thanks
Coach.
a lot. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.